Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Good morning, devotees. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 14, verse number 16. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Prayeshabhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamas Loke Bhaktirvavati Naistiki. Okay. Where is the verse? Okay. Here it is. Vachit Kala Visha Mitarajakula Rakshasa Bharita Priyatama Danasu Pramritaka Iva Vigata Jiva Lakshana Aste. Synonyms. Kvachit, sometimes. Kala Vishamita, made crooked by time. Rajakula, the government man. Rakshasa, by those who are like carnivorous human beings. Aparita, being plundered. Priyatama, most dear. Dhana, in the form of wealth. Asu, whose life heir. Pramritaka, dead. Iva, like. Vigata Jiva Lakshana, bereft of all signs of life. Aste, he remains. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Government men are always like carnivorous demons called Rakshasas, man-eaters. Sometimes these government men turn against the conditioned soul and take away all his accumulated wealth. Being bereft of his life's reserved wealth, the conditioned soul loses all enthusiasm. Indeed, it is as though he loses his life. Purport. The word Rajakula Rakshasa is very significant. Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled about 5,000 years ago, yet government men are referred to as Rakshasas, or carnivorous demons. If government men are opposed to a person, that person will be bereft of all his riches, which he has accumulated with great care over a long period of time. Actually, no one wants to pay income taxes. Even government men themselves try to avoid these taxes. But at unfavorable times, income taxes are exacted forcibly, and the taxpayers become very morose. The verse again. Government men are always like carnivorous demons called Rakshasas, man-eaters. Sometimes these government men turn against the conditioned soul and take away all his accumulated wealth. Being bereft of his life's reserved wealth, the conditioned soul loses all enthusiasm. Indeed, it is as though he loses his life. Om Gyanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurumilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Nangayati Girim Yad Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram Vanchakalpataruyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. There is a saying in America, as sure as death and taxes. And sometimes people don't know which one will be more painful. This government man First of all, in many countries, not just in the United States, but also in India and other places, people try to get federal employment because it's like having tenure at a university, and that means there won't be any possibility of them losing their job, because we can see this is a modern time characteristic, that someone who may have worked in a company for 30 years is replaced practically without a severance package by a younger person who can outperform him, or that shows more enthusiasm and so on. So this happens in the public and the private sector. And these federal jobs are more secure. So even if they are incredibly tedious and repetitive and intranscendent, still people want to work because at least they know they will have a pension, they will have medical and dental benefits and burial benefits, and they won't be able to be fired. So they will have the same job for their entire life until they retire and get a pension. And one of such jobs is being a taxman. This is, if the government, as Prabhupada indicates, is inimical to any particular person, they will actually make him or her or them lose their entire fortune, their entire capital. And of course, there is a lot of gambling and risk nowadays, and because formerly people used to be able to invest their money in some kind of long-term thing. They put part of their salary and they will get a particular interest, which was sufficient for them to purchase a home and to go on vacation and et cetera, et cetera. They will have kind of a disposable income. But nowadays, with the passing of time, things get more complicated. And now both husband and wife usually have to work in order to maintain themselves, and they don't own a house. Maybe in Pennsylvania they can, but not in New York or Florida or California. It's out of the question. So it's a lot of uncertainty. And since this is the culmination of the four stages of material life, artha, wealth, economic stability, because there is no liberation now in Kali Yuga. People don't aspire to be liberated. So let's say that the artha, economic development, which is supposed to be the first, ends up being the goal. So this is a state of affairs. And what to speak of religiosity? This is understood that if someone goes to a particular church or mosque or synagogue or temple, it's because it's convenient. It's because it's nearby. It's because they were born in that tradition. They don't question the philosophy. And they think that faith is an attribute that is a luxury. It's a luxury item. Although faith is something everybody has. It's just that they place it on a different object. So faith is the same for everyone. And this government employees who are like soccer referees, basically, they just follow the rules, the letter of the law, and not the spirit of the law. They don't care. They don't care who they go after, as long as they can keep the job, and they don't consider case by case. It's simply plunderers, as Prabhupada calls it, rakshasas. Now, this rakshasa, there are stories in the Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata about different rakshasas, of the union of a Rakshasi and Bhima. Gatotkacha came out. So it was uncommon that Rakshasas and humans will mate, let's say, or get together, because Rakshasas are carnivorous, but not only carnivorous, but they're cannibals. They eat other humans. They think it's a delicacy. There was one time in the Mahabharata when the Pandavas were in exile. They were in disguise. And of course, it's difficult to hide a warrior, a real kshatriya, because they're very muscular, they're very large people, and they have battle scars. They're typical of a kshatriya, like Arjuna had particular scars because of using the bow. They're only seen in an archer, and so on. So they were staying, the Pandavas were staying in the house of a Brahmana. The region is described, well, of course, I think it's described in the differently in different scriptures, I guess. But it was in West Bengal, so it could have been Lord Nityananda's birthplace, Ikachakra. But anyway, it was in West Bengal, and they were hiding in a Brahman's house. So they were, because they grew up in the mountains, in the hermitage of sages, they knew the culture, they knew how to talk like Brahmins, and they knew how the Brahmins dress, they knew how to put on all these Brahminical clothing. And so they were disguised, even though it was pretty obvious that they were very large men. And one day, Kunti, their mother, overheard the Brahman and the wife and the daughter talking and crying. So she was puzzled, and they were actually saying, "No, I can go, because I'm young, I haven't done anything, and I'm useless at this point, so it's better that I go." And the mother was saying, "No, you can take care of a household. I'm getting older, and I don't amount to much." And the father was saying, "No, it's time for me to retire. So what better? I cannot conceive of the idea of you guys not being anyway." So Kunti did not understand what the conversation was about, so she just walked into their very strange dialogue, and she said, "What is going on? What are you guys talking about?" And they explained the story that in their village there was a Rakshasa that terrorized the region, and they made an agreement with the Rakshasa that the Rakshasa will actually defend the village from foreign invasion, from other demons. He will be the guardian of a village as long as they send someone every week. It also is debatable if it was every week or every month, but appears to be every week. They send a cart full of food, and so he will eat that and the driver. So that was dessert, I guess. So this Kunti said that's a horrible situation, but I think I have a solution. I have 5 sons, so I will send one of my sons, Bhima. I will send him. And they were thinking, the family was thinking, well, wait a second, you just sacrificed one of your sons? That is not fair. That is crazy. We wouldn't allow that. And Kunti explained herself. She said, no. Bhima is a good, he's a good fighter. Even though he's a Brahmana, he's actually a very good fighter. So I don't think he's going to have any problem with this Rakshasa. And they try to explain to Kunti, no, this is no ordinary being. This is a monster, a big guy with ferocious teeth and superhuman strength that eats people. That's what he does. And we have been decimating the village by sending a person every week or month. But at least it's saved us for more calamities. And Kunti said, I think we can fix this. I think Bhima will take care of him. And they insisted that was totally unfair and uncalled for, but Kunti was very determined and said, please do not worry, it's my responsibility, and I know what I'm doing. So they prepared a cart full of food, and they told Bhima about his engagement, and Bhima was very excited because he didn't have a chance to fight very often. So he was thinking, oh, this is great. This is great. I can practice my moves. So Bhima left with a food cart, but because Bhima was a voracious eater, he couldn't help himself and started eating stuff along the way. So by the time he got to where the Rakshasa was, the cart was almost empty because he was a voracious eater, son of a wind god, and just basically he was probably burping by the time he got to this Rakshasa. His name was Bakasura. And the Rakshasa was happy to see that the food was coming, but then when the cart goes closer, he said there was hardly anything left. So he was very disturbed and furious. And a battle ensued, and Bhima took care of it, just like he always took care of business. When like for example, when they were escaping the house of Lak, the fire, some of the Pandavas, they run all night. First they escaped through a tunnel and they ran all night, and they started getting tired. But Bhima was in the Fatagavo, so he actually carried his family in his arms and kept running. So his strength was superhuman. So they took care, and the villagers actually went to see how the Rakshasa, the place of the Rakshasa, that was he was torn apart. Usually he would use to bifurcate people break into half, or he will pummel them. Like there was another incident where someone was approaching Draupadi in an inappropriate manner, and so Bhima basically grabbed their arms and put them inside the thorax and the legs too, inside the trunk, and punched the head right inside of it neck. So there was like a bowl. So this is, they almost got discovered because of that, because that was one of his signature moves. Like some people have, the boxers have a particular shot, like a hook or uppercut or whatever. And this was Bhima's signature. So this is this kind of these demons, because they are demons, they're not pious. One has to be pretty sinful in order to take the body of a Rakshasa, which is cannibal, carnivorous demon. And this kind of creatures are those that are compared in the Bhagavatam to government men. And there are governments that are worse than others. There are governments that actually are thinking of the welfare of the people, very few. For example, I sent a little blurb about the government of Denmark, which is encouraging and changing the dietary habits of Danish people by promoting a plant-based diet. This is a good thing. And they don't have soda dispensing machines and unhealthy snack machines in schools. They have actually try to have a balanced diet. Whereas in America, we just have kids take shots at very unhealthy food during breaks. They can have pretzels and potato chips and M&Ms and Coca-Cola and all these other things that they have high fructose corn syrup and oodles of sugar. And are we surprised about the obesity epidemic? We shouldn't be with this. So there are governments that are, for example, in Norway, they give a lot of discounts. Norway is a very wealthy country, and they give lots of discounts to people who buy electric cars because they want to reduce pollution. And the interests of other governments are not geared towards those people. So government men are supposed to be the representatives. They will be the servants of those who represent people, but this is hardly the case. This is simply a way to get away with as little work as possible and as much money as possible and disregard people. And there are other governments where they don't even hide that. This is their MO, modus operandi. This is their lifestyle. And they get used to it. And people accept it. After a while, that's the way things are done, like bureaucracy. Is it really necessary? No. But it's in place and it's a tradition and is inefficient. But because it's there, it should be the way it is. So it's very difficult to live in this world, in other words, because it's not because of money being taken out of people that they become depressed. They are doing the wrong thing. They have forgotten, like all of us, who our real friend is. Like the story of Puranjana. Who is the real friend? Krishna. And we have forgotten him. And this is the payment. This is the punishment for having forgotten Krishna, that we have to deal with unscrupulous people that they want to not only encroach, but also they don't care about other people's suffering. So when someone doesn't have empathy for other beings, it's really probably the division between humans and subhumans. Human beings supposed to develop noble qualities and pursue virtue and try to understand the self and the super self. And those who don't, they are not to be considered humans, they are subhumans. So it's very difficult to live in a place where one is going against the grain. This world. There are pious people, certainly there are, but who among them is trying not just to be a good person or improve themselves, but try to understand what is the goal of life, the real goal, and drop everything else and pursue that? Very few, very few. And is described in the Gita, Manushyanam Sahasrasu Kinchit Yatati Siddhaya. Like there are thousands that may practice self-realization, and not all of them, many of them give up halfway. And of those who become perfected, hardly one knows Krishna in truth. So this is a very selected and selective audience. Those who actually get to the conclusion that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and our only impetus in life should be to develop love for Krishna. They're very, very, very few. So we should be protective of people like that and try to bring others into their shelter. All right, I think I've spoken enough. We have to end at 7:45 at the latest, hint, hint, because of the change of schedule due to the month of Damodar. So if you have any comments or questions or contentions, this will be a good time to present them. And remember, we have 9 minutes left. Okay, there is a message from Yasudev. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the age-old question, to vote or not to vote. Well, I've never voted. I have dual citizenship and I never voted. To me, that's what Prabhupada said about politicians seems to be the consensus, which is what's the difference between one party and another? It's like the difference between wet stool and dry stool is a moisture content. So I don't know. Does it make a difference if I vote? Would the better one win? I have no idea. I think because of the electoral college system in America, it seems like individual votes have very little to do with the election. So I'm not sure if it is. I mean, do what your heart tells you to do. If you feel like voting, yeah, go ahead. I never registered to vote in any country, so I don't have the experience nor the confidence that my vote is going to make any difference, or that the result of the election is going to make any difference. It's just going to be bad party versus another bad party. It's a bad choice no matter where you look. And if you abstain, that's also bad. But that's my choice. Our options are Rakshasas or Rakshasas in disguise. Yeah, I don't think they're disguise. I think they're just, basically they are. I mean, who will go into politics? What kind of person? A person who may start trying to change the world. Maybe there is someone like that is actually willing to change the world. But by the time they get to Washington, oh no, there's just so many forces and so many interests and so many lobbies that are pushing money that comes from different directions, trying to change people's votes and laws and et cetera, et cetera. It's just a terrible thing. Who want it? It's not like a just constitutional monarchy where actually the king is a rajarsi, the monarch is a saint as well as a warrior, and will defend people and will hear their concerns. Because even in not what to speak of millenary times, even hundreds of years ago, in when there were monarchs in India, well, it has to be probably thousands at this point. People could go and complain openly and criticize the ruler, and what would happen to them? Nothing. It could be demonstrations. It could be just screaming, yelling at the monarch for something they did that they didn't agree with. Nothing will happen. And nowadays, try to do that in Iran or in Pakistan or in Gaza or anywhere else like that. You will be shortening your lifespan by a lot. And that's the way it is. And there was freedom of religion in India. People could practice whatever religion they wanted. There was no state religion. There was majority, but there was no something that needs to be enforced. This is the only way. Whereas nowadays, try that in Yemen. Try to preach Krishna consciousness in a Muslim country. You'll be executed. So there is a difference between governments, but that's a little more involved. This is a difficult. The Prabhupada called this world a place, not a place for gentlemen. So I stick by it. I think we should take this world as a bus stop. If you're going from here to Missouri and you stop somewhere, just don't spend too much time or effort wherever you stop, because just get on the bus and keep going. Yes, this place is a Dukalayama Sarvatma, miserable, full of inebrities, not and temporary. So let's put our effort where the result is not temporary. Okay, we're really out of time now. Thank you.
2 minutes.
Yeah, but when you speak for 2 minutes, it ends up being 20. So you really want to do that?
I can fill 2 minutes.
I'm gonna stop you.
We're running 5 minutes late here, so you have a little bit extra time.
Oh, okay. Don't tell that to Taraka. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Well, I feel compelled to say with regards to voting that Srila Prabhupada had absolutely no confidence in the system of voting in this country or any other country. He never voted once in his entire life. Although he was strongly compelled to do so by his friends, he refused to vote, insisting that he could not, in good conscience, vote for a rascal, and he would not vote unless the candidate was actually Krishna conscious. I wasn't opposed to voting in principle, but would not vote unless there was a Krishna conscious candidate. Srila Prabhupada never voted. He set that example. And the voting system, as you have mentioned, is it's corrupted. We just had elections in the state of Pennsylvania, and it has been discovered that 350,000 votes were deleted from one of the Republican candidates for the Supreme Court. Votes shifted from one party to the other party, and the machines in some cases were flipping the votes. They had been programmed to do so. That the company insists it was an accident, but the machines were actually programmed to switch Republican votes to Democrat votes. Anyway, yeah, the recurrent theme in Srimad Bhagavatam that material life is miserable, and all of these conditions that we're subjected to are simply miserable. It's supposed to be incentive to affect a solution, but people are under the illusion somehow that this is okay, or that there's a bright side. You should look to the bright side, but Srimad Bhagavatam is not like that. It does not consider there to be a bright side. It's negative. Krishna consciousness, going back home, is the bright side, the only bright side. The material world is simply a place of misery. It's some place that we need to get out of. And but because we have to exist for some period of time in this world, Srila Prabhupada established communities like Gitanagari, farm communities, where he wanted us to become independent of the established system, with all of its impositions on our lives, the oppressive laws and taxation. If you're producing your own food, you circumvent the whole system. You short circuit everything. They have no control or influence over you. They can't tax you. They can't do anything. You provide for yourself. You don't have to work through the system. I worked for many years in the non-devotee world, trying to desperately to get ahead so that I could retire and just engage in Krishna consciousness. I worked a minimum of 108 hours per week on my first job. On my second job, I worked an additional 4 to 6 hours a week, per day, 4 to 6 hours per day on the other job, 18 hours on the first job. I was able to catch some sleep during the first job. So, and then the government taxed me. The federal government. This is not the state taxes. That was additional. Federal government taxed me 50%. So for all my hard labor, the first 6 months of the year, basically, I was working for nothing. It all went to the government. And then the government squanders the money on wars, and it gets laundered and goes back to the politicians in various ways. All kinds of corruption. The government is incredibly corrupt, unbelievably corrupt, and getting worse all the time. It is much worse than it has ever been in the United States. Very bad situation. We don't want to be a part of any of that. So Gita Nagari is an opportunity. We haven't fully implemented Srila Prabhupada's plan of self-sufficiency and independence, but that's something that we should aspire to in earnest, because it solves a lot of problems. I'll shut up. Thank you for a nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. That was a nice addition. Okay, Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, thank you very much for turning up for Bhagavatam class. It's for the benefit of all of us. And we'll see you tomorrow. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Hari Hari Bol, Shri Shri Radha Madhar ki jai.